Welcome to the 7th Planet Broadcasting special series, The Anunnaki, for Season 1, Episode 7. I am your host, Matt LACROIX, and I am joined by best-selling author and radio personality, Gerald Clark, and truth seekers and ancient ancestral researchers, CHRISTA Clark, Troy Gothard, and ZECHARIAH Lange, and Billy Carson.
All throughout history, past cultures have worshipped the dragon and plumed serpent from Japan and China all the way to the Americas. From colorful headdresses adorned with feathers to winged dragon costumes, the ancient civilizations of the past preserve the great legacy of the knowledge of the serpent, which have been passed down to them for thousands of years. This is known as the legacy of Quetzalcoatl.
Together, we will follow the breadcrumbs of evidence left behind to finally reveal a forgotten link from the Anunnaki gods of history back to ancient Atlantis and the design behind modern-day Washington, D.C. Is there far more than meets the eye behind the symbology of important buildings and monuments secretly hiding right in plain sight?
Our story, unveiling the legend of Quetzalcoatl, begins 450,000 years ago on a distant planet far away in the outer reaches of our solar system, known as Planet X, or Nibiru.
Retracing the symbology of the dragon and the plumed serpent, evidence points to Anunnaki origins as witnessed in Mesopotamia and Egypt. Enki's second-born son, Ningshita, along with Ninurta, were considered great dragons in Sumer, indicating they were in line to rule.
Far in the past, in ancient times, the planet Nibiru became captured by our solar system, where it became binary. This led to the planetary system exhibiting a long retrograde orbit of every 3,600 years, a Nibiru char, relative to 1 Earth year. Nibiru's appearance in the sky has been described as a red dragon in the Egyptian Qumran Bible as the winged globe effect created by iron oxide debris clouds interacting with solar radiation when crossing a perihelion created the image of the winged globe crest of Sumer in Egypt.
Due to its retrograde orbit, every perihelion approach of Nibiru near our great sun would lead to atmospheric degradation, forcing the Anunnaki to seek the element gold, which is the holy grail of elements for repairing an atmosphere and extending life. Nibiru's artificial gold atmospheric radiation shield was torn away by electromagnetic and gravitational effects caused by close encounters with the inner planets, including the Sun and Earth. To truly understand the motivations behind the Anunnaki coming to Earth, an alchemist's perspective is helpful. Rare earth elements like gold, silver, and the transition metals in general are far more important than we have been led to believe.
EA, or Enki as he is known on Earth, is a wise and ancient being who mastered the knowledge of biological sciences and genetics. Past centuries of corrupt governments on Nibiru had turned their society into a war dominated by culture where the great teachings of the divine cosmic dragon, Poimandra, were constantly challenged and diminished among the Anunnaki. Enki felt compelled to re-establish the tenets for a civilization based on the creator of all's guidelines, and desperately sought a place where they could finally be preserved. Could the spawning of the Anunnaki chimera's Homo sapien modern man been the result of not only filling a slave labor requirement, but possibly a genetic experiment by an alien scientist to create the civilization in accordance with the creator of all's desired way to live? Was this why Solon wanted to find out about Atlantis in the first place, due to its divine law and high civilization that resulted?
Enki had always dreamed of creating a new civilization on the planet where his sacred knowledge of the serpent could be manifested into a shining beacon of society. Enki felt deeply that the need to create this civilization was based on far more than just his personal desires, but was actually coming from a divine place, linking back to the creator of all. Enki had bore a son named Ningshita, who he passed everything he knew down to. We also have a description of Thoth, the Atlantean, having an avatar incarnation in ancient times. We know that Thoth is the same being with many names, given his mastering of the physical, spiritual, and mental aspects of our nature. One of those names following Thoth's rule over Egypt became Quetzalcoatl, the winged serpent god of Mesoamerica. This is where the great story of the legacy of Quetzalcoatl begins.
Targeting Earth because of the abundance of rare elements, including gold located there, prompted by recurring problems at perihelion, including a dwindling atmosphere on their planet, the Anunnaki conquistadors from Nibiru landed in the Persian Gulf region of Iraq approximately 450,000 years ago. Setting up remote operating stations at Eridu, they began searching for monatomic gold in colloidal suspensions in the oceans, and eventually changed focus to South Africa, where their workforce, the Ajiji, used mining operations to meet their gold acquisition requirements.
In the Enuma Elish, Ningishita's name is Mumu, affiliated with the planet Mercury, Gaga. Notice the close relation of Mercury to our sun. Could it perhaps be symbolic to why he was named after it? The key to understanding our story lies with Enki and his son Ningishita, who took on many important incarnations during mankind's history, including that of the Roman god Mercury, maintaining his original Enuma Elish affiliation to his adopted planet. Is it coincidence that the liquid metal Mercury, affiliated with the planet of the same name, was an extremely important substance to alchemists, of which Alchem, or Thoth, was the first in Egypt? Here we see a critical link between Thoth, Hermes, Mercury, all carrying the same caduceus symbol as well.
Knowledge of the serpent was first brought here with the Enki clan and used to create new civilizations, with the first being in Sumer, Iraq, and known as Eridu. Eridu is the first city on Earth and is over 400,000 years old. Our premise is that the winged serpent symbology used by Quetzalcoatl, Thoth, Hermes is based on the divine Pymander dialogue in the Vision of Hermes. The cosmic serpent, or dragon, reveals itself to Hermes and orders him to establish the universal mind's mysteries on Earth. Thoth in Egypt was also affiliated with a flying serpent, showing his veneration to the Poimandra Charter, to be mankind's teacher and messenger of the cosmic dragon Poimander. It is our belief that is why Quetzalcoatl chose the winged serpent symbology seen all over his pyramids in Mesoamerica. The serpent descent ritual at Chichen Itza commemorates the descent of the divine mysteries being given to mankind, where Kukulkan, dressed like the being he served, the universal mind, represented by a dragon to the ancient masters.
But this story doesn't follow the toils of early mankind's creation and slavery in the Abzu. Instead, we jump ahead in time to the last ice age around 13,000 years ago to a forgotten island landmass many consider simply fantasy.
Told in stories by seamen and ancient Greek documents like the Critias, and carried down through generations thanks to Plato's writings, a mysterious large landmass existed west of Morocco and the Canary Islands of Spain. The island nation was known as Atlantis and was ruled by the deity Poseidon, whom we now know from our god table by his Sumerian name as Enki.
The island subcontinent of Atlantis is spoken about in countless cultures and religions all across the world, but the most important and reliable record we have is from the historical figure, Plato.
Plato is a famous Greek philosopher who is accredited with the founding of the Platonic Academy, considered the very first higher education institution in the Western world. Plato learned much of his knowledge from the earlier philosopher Socrates, who is considered one of the founders of philosophy.
With Plato's famous reputation echoing throughout history from his teachings and monologues, which have inspired millions, it seems peculiar that society has decided to ignore certain sections of his work pertaining to existence of Atlantis. Although most, if not all, modern seekers that are serious in the search for Atlantis start their quest using the detailed descriptive location clues as geographic boundaries in their search left to us by Plato.
Plato mentions Atlantis in both the Timaeus and the Critias, saying it existed more than 9,000 years before him and it could be found beyond the Pillars of Hercules. Most agree these pillars to be the Straits of Gibraltar. Yet even with this striking evidence given from one of the most brilliant philosophers in ancient Greek society, his words are considered nothing more than pseudoscience. Our goal in this series is to expose the veil of history that has been censored and what information is determined to be suitable for the public and what is not.
We are told by ancient historians that Atlantis was a spectacular land of tall mountains, lush forests, and a utopian city. What truly made Atlantis special was the knowledge passed down and contained there among the enlightened people. Enki was credited with the founding of Atlantis and preserving the wisdom of the serpent in this magnificent city by the ocean. Poseidon's orichalcum-adorned twin temple pillars stood openly inscribed with divine laws which spawned a utopian civilization, the likes of which Solon desired for his fellow Greek citizens.
According to the Emerald Tablets, an intentional flood event was caused by Poseidon to close an undesired portal to a lower dimension which had been opened by forbidden magic by a dark brotherhood. There is strong evidence shown all over the world in ice cores, soil layers, and religious texts that speak of cataclysms which occurred on Earth that led to the destruction of Atlantis and many other civilizations. Could the catalyst described in the Emerald Tablets on Atlantis be coincident with the Atrahasis and Epic of Gilgamesh stories of a deluge? Could the passage of the Anunnaki home planet of Nibiru have been the catalyst for frequent flood events and disasters in Earth's recent history?
Around 12,500 years ago, near the end of the last ice age, Atlantis was hit by a colossal tsunami, followed by intense volcanism, leading to the entire island landmass submerging beneath the Atlantic. Ancient scholars like Plato say that the island of Atlantis was completely destroyed, which is why it left little evidence of its physical existence to this day.
The teachings and higher mindset of the people of Atlantis was carried on long after its destruction and preserved in the Emerald Tablets and books such as The Lost Teachings of Atlantis and The Secret Teachings of All Ages by Manly P. Hall.
Evidence suggests that Plato learned the story of Atlantis and the secret knowledge it contained from thousands of miles away in Egypt. It is by no means a coincidence that after the island of Atlantis sank into the ocean, the information and wisdom of the serpent was first brought east to Al-Kem, or Egypt.
Thoth the Atlantean maintained the same name in Kem, Egypt, where he was also known as Thoth, Lord of Wisdom. His many statues and images represented him as a man with an ibis bird head, often seen in Egyptian hieroglyphs.
Thoth left Egypt when his brother Marduk, also known as Amen-Ra, claimed to be the supreme solar deity, subsequently forcing his brother Thoth into exile, where he sought to re-establish the mystery school teachings based on those from Atlantis across the ocean far to the east in the Americas.
The native cultures of the United States and Mexico say that their origins began from 4 divine brothers who originated east in the Atlantic and landed by boat, establishing civilizations in the Americas. We have evidence showing that genetic links exist connecting Native American tribes with the Lamanites, a lost tribe of Israel. The region occupied by the mound-building culture is termed the Mississippi River Valley and shares occupation of the site with a Mormon map indicating the region was the adopted home of the Nephites, an early race of beings the Bible terms the Nephilim, as well as being a significant personage in the Book of Mormon. We know from Sumerian sources that the Nephilim were hybrids of the Anunnaki workers named the Ajiji, cited in the Atrahasis tablets as the rebel miners. Could the Mormon Nephites have been the giant Nephilim offspring of the Ajiji and the primitive worker daughters of men as referenced in the Bible?
Our mission is to establish where Aztlan was located, and thus we can begin by investigating what is known about where the Aztec and Toltec originated. The Mayan codices, along with the Popol Vuh, provide details and clues as to the location of the mythical Aztlan home. 4 divine brothers led the 7 races of Aztlan to various locations in today's Mexico and Guatemala. The Aztec people were directed to leave from the southwest United States Four Corners region southwards to Teotihuacan, Mexico.
Other migrations and origins, such as the Olmec and Mayan people, also directly link back to Thoth, Quetzalcoatl, in Africa, where he actually worked to protect the important legacy of the Atlantean knowledge, nearly lost to destruction. Evidence for the plumed or winged serpent symbology is found all across the Americas and tells the forgotten tale of the enlightened civilizations created and later destroyed by warring gods, fiercely opposed to mankind receiving advanced Anunnaki knowledge, teaching, and ancient mysteries about consciousness and seeking the light of the creator of all, versus bowing down to enslavement.
Recent evidence found below a pyramid of the sun in Mesoamerica potentially links Thoth's exile migration path from Egypt, carrying his forgotten Atlantean wisdom on what are termed the Emerald Tablets. In 1925, Dr. Dorial, head of the Great White Brotherhood, claims he was directed to recover the tablets which had been hidden beneath a Mesoamerican temple of the sun, translate them, and return them to a chamber hidden beneath the Great Sphinx on the Giza Plateau.
Emerald Tablet 12 holds a prophecy about the ending of a great age when the darkness of Pisces would finally lift and the light of Aquarius would return. The prophecy is provided here as it coincides significantly with today's headlines.
Then shall there come unto man the great warfare that shall make the earth tremble and shake in its course. Aye, then shall the dark brothers open the warfare between light and the night. When man again shall conquer the ocean and fly in the air on wings like the birds, when he has learned to harness the lightning, then shall the time of warfare begin. Great shall the battle be twixt the forces, great the warfare of darkness and light. Nation shall rise against nation, using the dark forces to shatter the earth. Weapons of force shall wipe out the earthman until half of the races of men shall be gone. Then shall come forth the sons of the morning, and give their edict to the children of men, saying, O men, cease from thy striving against thy brother. Only thus can ye come into the light. Cease from thy unbelief, O my brother, and follow the path, and ye know ye are right. Then shall men cease from their striving, brother against brother, and father against son. Then shall the ancient home of my people rise from its place beneath the dark ocean waves. Then shall the age of light be unfolded, with all men seeking the light of the goal. Then shall the brothers of light rule the people, banished shall be the darkness of night. I, the children of men, shall progress, onward and upward to the great goal. Children of light shall they become, flame of the flame shall their souls ever be. Knowledge and wisdom shall be man's. In the great age, for he shall approach the eternal flame, the source of all wisdom, the place of beginning, that is yet one with the end of all things.
The ancient Mayan calendar also speaks extensively about this important change in consciousness occurring now, just as mentioned in the Emerald Tablets by Thoth Quetzalcoatl. As told by the Mayans, mankind is headed into the very heart of the galactic center of our Milky Way galaxy as we begin the great transition to the time of Aquarius. This is the universal consciousness catalyst symbolized by the Mayan ball game, whose goal was to shoot a rubber ball through a stone hoop, which represented the solar system passing into and through the dark rift or Milky Way galaxy center. Could this also be the event that the Mayan Zocan calendar used to decrement the August 11th, 3113 BC long count, ending with this great year event? According to the calendar, mankind should be waking up to the universal consciousness at this time, now.
The Mayan calendar, Emerald Tablets, the Bible, and many other texts across the world share a similar story linking the ages with levels of consciousness. If we look into the origins of the Bible and the Anunnaki-inspired Sumerian cuneiform texts, strong evidence indicates that Jesus was an incarnation of Quetzalcoatl, Ningshida, Thoth, which agrees with Edgar Cayce's writings.
Much like the fates of the Aztec and the Maya, both Jesus and Enoch's Gnostic wisdom writings were largely lost and intentionally destroyed. What now remains are mere fragments of true suppressed history. The Gnostic wisdom contained in the remaining fragments, such as the Nag Hammadi scriptures and the Book of Enoch, preserve the truth that has been suppressed all along. Seeking the meaning of who we are and our true history, deep resonance may be found among the author, Thoth Hermes Quetzalcoatl, mankind's appointed teacher of Poimander's universal mysteries.
With the early serpent cultures of the Americas destroyed by conquest and war, spawned by Enlil's Anunnaki clan of the Eagle, no attempt to establish a new Atlantis civilization was made until hundreds of years later. Sir Francis Bacon appears to have been a key source for the motivation to spawn the new Atlantis, headquartered in the American capital of Washington, D.C. Was Francis Bacon working on behalf of Ningshida, Thoth, Quetzalcoatl, to establish this vision for a future time when Atlantis would rise again?
In 1776, an important document was signed known as the Declaration of Independence, where 13 colonies of America came together to create a new nation, free of the tyranny and control of the British.
The man largely responsible for that great feat was George Washington, who became the first president of the United States and was a high-ranking Freemason. In all, 14 U.S. presidents have been part of the Freemasons in its early history, and show strong links back to an attempt at the founding of a new Atlantis. Were these men working to achieve Francis Bacon's view of the new Atlantis?
The founding fathers of America believed in something greater than what they saw around them, and often spoke in secret meetings kept behind closed doors. Forced into secrecy for safety reasons, they practiced the traditions upheld by the divine serpent to enact rules and laws protecting the rights of the individual and free speech. Does the evidence show that the modern mystery schools intended for Thoth for life-changing alchemy have become nothing more than a social society of secrets? In my book, The Seventh Planet, Mercury Rising, it appears that the master architect of the mystery schools, Thoth himself, was replaced by the Christian god in the York Rite in England circa 1885. Thus, the Masons have been a refitted organization since that time.
In many ways, important documents like the Constitution provided the future seeds to be planted so that one day, when the time is right, a new Atlantis could once rise again with Washington, D.C. as the capital. Evidence for this can be seen with the profound alien-like encounter that George Washington had at Valley Forge in Pennsylvania.
During the brutal winter of 1777, with hundreds of sick and injured men and hypothermia setting in, all hope seemed to be lost for the future of America and marked the lowest point of the Revolutionary War. George Washington was preparing to surrender his army at Valley Forge when he had a profound encounter that changed his life and the course of history.
The experience would change history and was so moving that Washington later recounted the story to Anthony Sherman, who later published it in the 1880 National Tribune titled The Vision of Washington.
As America's future began to slip away due to overwhelming force of the British armies, George Washington stated, "This afternoon, as I was sitting at the table engaging in preparing a dispatch, something seemed to disturb me. Looking up, I beheld, standing opposite to me, a singularly beautiful being. So astonished was I, for I had given a strict order not to be disturbed, that it was some moments before I found language to inquire the cause of the visit. A second, a third, and even a fourth time did I repeat my question, but received no answer from my mysterious visitor except a slight raising of the eyes. By this time, I felt a strange sensation spreading through me. I would have risen, but the riveting gaze of the being before me rendered volition impossible. I tried once more to speak, but my tongue became useless, as if paralyzed. A new influence, mysterious, potent, irresistible, took possession of me. All I could do was gaze steadily, vacant at my unknown visitor. Gradually, the surrounding atmosphere seemed to fill with sensations and grew luminous. I heard a voice saying, 'Son of the Republic, look and learn,' while at the same time my visitor extended her arm eastwardly. I now beheld a heavy white vapor at some distance, rising fold upon fold. This gradually dissipated, and I looked upon a strange scene. Before me lay spread out in one vast plain all the countries of the world: Europe, Asia, Africa, and America. I saw rolling and tossing between Europe and America the billows of the Atlantic, and between Asia and America lay the Pacific. 'Son of the Republic,' said the same mysterious voice as before, 'look and learn.' At that moment I beheld a dark, shadowy being, like an angel, standing, or rather floating in midair, between Europe and America. Dipping water out of the ocean in the hollow of each hand, he sprinkled some upon America with his right hand, while his left hand he cast some on Europe. Immediately, a cloud raised from these countries and joined in mid-ocean. For a while, it remained stationary and then moved slowly westwardly until it enveloped America in its murky folds. Sharp flashes of lightning gleamed through it at intervals, and I heard the smothered groans and cries of the American people.
A second time, the angel dipped water from the ocean and sprinkled it out as before. The dark cloud was then drawn back to the ocean, in whose heavenly billows it sank from view. A third time, I heard the mysterious voice saying, "Son of the Republic, look and learn." I cast my eyes upon America and beheld villages and towns and cities springing up after one another until the whole land from the Atlantic to the Pacific was dotted with them. Again I heard the mysterious voice say, "Son of the Republic, the end of the century cometh, look and learn." At this, the dark shadowy angel turned his face southward, and from Africa I saw an ill-omened spectra approach our land. It flitted slowly over every town and city of the latter. The inhabitants presently set themselves in battle, array against each other. As I continued looking, I saw a bright angel, on whose brow rested a crown of light, on which was traced the word Union, bearing the American flag, which he placed between the divided nation and said, "Remember, ye are brethren." Instantly, the inhabitants, casting their weapons aside, became friends once more, united.
Instantly, a light as of 1,000 suns shone down from above me, and pierced and broke into fragments the dark cloud which enveloped America. At the same moment, the angel upon whose head still shone the word Union, and who bore our national flag in one hand and a sword in the other, descended from the heavens, attended by legions of white spirits.
After the encounter, Washington decided to not surrender his army to the British, and instead pulled back to regroup and seek shelter from the harsh winter conditions they faced. Eventually, this would lead to the defeat of the British and the creation of the United States of America. One has to wonder what the fate of America would have been if not for this important event. Who could the beings have been that appeared to Washington at this critical juncture in American history? Could Hermes have been involved in the vision, given the fact that his image is painted on the U.S. Capitol dome, holding the caduceus, so there is no misidentification possible? Is he handing Robert Morris a bag of gold to fund the Revolutionary War?
The details given in the profound vision Washington had at Valley Forge are strikingly reminiscent of Poimander's vision of Hermes. In Washington's case, his inspiration is to spawn a nation based on principles borrowed from Atlantis.
Consider the fact that the Greek god Hermes, seen with the caduceus symbol, and his father Enki holding the trident, adorn today's Capitol building in Washington, D.C. Does that mean that the being Hermes is an incarnation of Thoth, visited George Washington that fated winter day, intending to save a future they knew they had to protect? The evidence seems overwhelming that the truth behind our hidden history from view and connects back to the Anunnaki gods.
The early founding fathers, many of them Freemasons, adopted the sacred geometry building practices seen in many other parts of the world, especially in Europe, when designing the city of Washington, D.C. The symbol of the flower of life can be traced back to Egypt and many other parts of the world. Tronvalo wrote a 2-volume book series titled The Ancient Secrets of the Flower of Life that provides significant details about the symbol and its meaning as it relates to the sacred geometry, the Sephiroths in the Kabbalah, and the correlation to the human chakra system.
Unknown to the millions of visitors every year, if viewed from above, Washington, D.C.'s monuments and streets form a giant pentagram which shows strong connections back to Atlantis and the sacred geometry of the serpent. Notice the sheer precision and effort undertaken behind the construction of the city and the secret symbology contained within the design. Is there far more to our history that books have omitted? Was the symbol of the inverted star affiliated with Thoth, given the links to the past, and the further clues that show the pentagram if treated like an amulet, dangles from an imaginary chain attached at the Scott Street Circle, leading back to its origin at the 33rd degree Scottish Rite Temple headquarters on 16th Street. If Thoth was the master architect of the original temple, then this symbol in the streets clearly broadcast his intentions for Washington, D.C., a new Atlantis.
The famous Washington Monument is a perfect example, hiding right in plain sight, which connects the symbolic design of the city all the way back to ancient Egypt.
The Washington Monument's design is known as an obelisk and represents a tall pillar with a pyramid at the top. The ancient Egyptians were among the first to design these obelisks, which signified a divine connection to the gods and were placed near temples of higher learning.
In spite of modern discoveries, most people choose to ignore the facts, failing to ask the hard questions about true human origins and the rise and fall of civilizations. The American dream, as it is known, is propagated through the false accumulation of wealth and materialism, and is a way to hide from society the historical goals the Founding Fathers intended for Washington, D.C., the new Atlantis.
So what exactly happened to America in the founding of the new Atlantis? Just as seen in the cultures of the Aztec and Maya, the United States became corrupted and controlled by war gods, symbolized by the Lord of the Air, the eagle. Early colonial laws were based on divine Atlantean wisdom to guarantee the freedom necessary for the new American colonists to seek the higher goals beyond a materialistic-based life.
The great legacy of Quetzalcoatl can be seen through the ages from his many incarnations of Ningishzida, from Thoth in Egypt, Kukulkan in the Yucatan, Amaru in South America, Jesus of the Middle East, or even Buddha of India. This important being has dedicated his life to guiding mankind in the preservation of the divine wisdom of Poimandre, the great cosmic dragon whose charter spawned Hermes to be mankind's teacher on Earth, imparting the divine mysteries until the age of darkness had passed. Will Thoth's wisdom and important knowledge disappear to history like so many times before? Or is the new Atlantis rising now?
Join us for Season 2 of the Anunnaki series, where we retrace the steps taken by the Olmec people back across the Atlantic Ocean to Africa, linking the Dogon and Zulu cultures with the mighty pyramids of Egypt and the early origins of mankind. The keys to understanding who we really are lie in the Abzu. On behalf of the 7 Planet Broadcasting crew, I am your host, Troy Gothard. Thank you for watching.